Okay, let's analyze the game. So in this position from round 2, this is the game Hans versus Jeffrey Shang. And white has a big advantage, and black's obviously wants to play e2, although e2 isn't really even a threat here because I can take the rook with check and then play rook e1. And in this position, the best move for white is a collinear move. Now, Hans was afraid of e2 and made a series of bad moves, throwing all of his advantage away. Now, Karen, if the first move is a collinear move, which Hans didn't see in this position, what move should white play based on that collinear talk?
If the first move that for white is a collinear move?
Yeah, that's the best move.
Probably rook f7.
Close. You couldn't be closer. Rook f7 is not a bad move.
Rook f6.
Rook f6. But rook f7 is not a bad move.
Yeah.
And rook takes f8. They're all good moves. Instead, Hans retreated, proving he never cheats, because that's a terrible move. Okay, then rook e8 attacking his pawn. And the problem is you can't really save your pawn now because your bishop is busy defending this. So if you play e6 to save your pawn, I have h5 and your bishop's overworked. You can't defend your pawn and stop e2. Obviously, I have to stop e2. So bishop g4 was a blunder on Hans's part, throwing all of his advantage away. Then rook d4 was a mistake. And somehow Hans went from close to winning to like fighting for a draw. Now black is actually better. And then they repeated, but Jeffrey didn't want to repeat. But, okay, you can't win because you can't do anything. And then the repetition happened. So in that game, Hans was very close to winning if he had traded rooks on f8 or played rook f6. Instead, he just blundered his e-pawn, and then he had to fight for a draw. So the first game proved that Hans cheats every move. This game proves he never cheats. It depends who's analyzing the game. We need people with engines proving every move is 100% or 0%. And don't forget it. The chess does speak for itself. Okay, next game. This is his game with Shankland. This was a very boring game where Shankland was better the whole game and Hans defended and traded and drew. Very super GM-like. Hans has the black pieces. They played a Nimzo Indian. One of the main lines. Hikaru actually plays this with black, this exact variation. D5, DC, B6, Bishop A6. I should have had Hikaru here for this, but he had to go. That's too bad because Karen wanted to hear what he had to say. So Hans basically had a worse position and traded everything. Hans has the black pieces. Every move is a trade. And white obviously has a better position here, better center, better pawn structure, Papa John's. And he traded all the rooks. And then he just was very stodgy here. He just played super passively. And, you know, Shankland, not the most talented player in the world, or even in his chair, he didn't know how to break through or do anything. So nothing ever happened. And this was the critical part of the game. White played f3 and black played f6. I was ashamed for both players. And they traded everything. Always trade everything. And then Hans moved his bishop around a lot. Nothing's happening. Nothing's happening. Nothing's happening. Hans just moves his bishop back and forth. And they repeated this is the third time. So that was an excellent game by Hans because he was worse the whole game with black. And he just traded, played very passive, defended everything, stopped all of white's winning chances. And he drew a very difficult game. Very difficult. That was like a non-engine game. Like worse the whole game and defending and trying to draw. So the next two games prove that Hans has never cheated, even online. That's how non-cheating they are. Okay, now if you want more evidence Hans didn't cheat, now he goes on a losing streak. And in fact, this game he was worse, and then Fabi threw it away twice. In this position, White should play Rook G2 and then King G4 with good drawing chances. Instead, Hans blundered with F4, losing. Check. And in this position, Fabi blundered. Fabi went by the rule that I always use, always repeat. So he went like rook, and repeated. That's actually a blunder. G takes F4 is winning. And in this position, Hans needs to move his king to G1. And then when all these pawns get traded off, the king is close to the C pawn. This is the pawn that's going to win the game for black, not the pawns that get captured. Those pawns aren't going to win. So rook here is a blunder, and now king G1 should draw the game. And instead, Hans played king H3, and then Fabi got on the right track. And because the king is on H2, instead of over here, now black is winning. We keep White's king away, and we get the Lucena position, etc.
Hey, Joey's streaming.
I know. But I'm streaming. On Joey's stream, they're like, Ben's streaming. Yeah, exactly. And this is the Lucena position, so he resigned. Although, yeah, he can't play rook check. He's going to play rook here check and so forth. All right, so Fabi won against Hans. Okay, now this game, once again, Hans had a worse position and defended excellently. In this position, White's clearly better. He's got pressure against this bishop. He's got 3-2 on the king's side. The bishops aren't very good. They're trapped. And Hans, knowing that I'm one of the world's finest analysts, always sacked the exchange. So Hans played bishop takes G5. If you play bishop takes G5, rook takes G5, that's check. Mm-hmm. So you have to take the rook. And now, after takes, rook H1. If you play rook takes rook, I play the Zwischenzug, bishop takes G5 check, then take the rook. So he sacks the exchange. So Hans sacks the exchange and has the two bishops. What else? And the engine says all zeros. And the rest of the game was boring. Good defense by Hans. And eventually they found a repetition because they're good players. That's a good repetition. And the game was agreed drawn. White can't do anything. Total blockade. And black does have two pawns for the exchange. So, if white goes crazy, black's going to win. But Dominguez doesn't go crazy. Or does he? No. Wait, how did Dominguez do today? He won against Christopher Yu in 134 moves yesterday. But how did he do today? How did Dominguez do? Does anybody know? Oh, yeah, he drew. Everybody drew at the top, so it's the same.
That's good, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Okay, here's another game Hans lost because you got to lose in threes. Hans has the white pieces, and he went crazy like Fox News in this position. Okay, he played the Joe Rogan attack. It doesn't make any sense. He played F4, F5, F6. And instead, the engine says after Queen G4, pinning this, that the position is slightly better for black because black's a pawn up. White has good compensation. Instead, Hans went all in, F4. And you know why going all in didn't work when Hans went all in with F4, F5, F6? Because Robbie called him. Yeah. And when I say Robbie, I mean Ray Robson. Oh, snap. I got both Robbies in. Okay.
That's funny.
So rook A2. Uh-oh, who's getting mated? The answer is Fries. F5. Here comes Hans. Knight C3, confusing everybody but Karen.
Hey, in Peru.
See how the knight forks these two?
Yes.
And if you play knight takes knight, then queen takes G2 mate.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so Hans is going all in. F6. Now, I got to explain stuff to you guys, and I've explained it before, and you still don't understand. And you never will. And you should be ashamed. And you should have been ashamed before, because you know who you are, but now you should be more ashamed. And that is when these complications happen and the players are very good, like top 10 in the world, top 20 in the world, etc., mainly etc., they calculate a million moves ahead. Occasionally they miss a move. But Ray Robson doesn't do that. Every year, Ray Robson wins whatever that thing is called. You know, where you do puzzle, puzzle rush, puzzle battle, whatever, puzzle extravaganza. Okay, Ray Robson's good at calculating. He didn't get 2,700 FIDE because he sat around all day saying, when's Nakamura showing up? Is Nakamura here? Ray Robson's not on the stream doing that, studying chess. Okay, in this position, if this was like a puzzle rush, this would be like 3,300.
Yeah.
Yeah, because black has one move that wins here, otherwise he's lost. And you're not finding that move. Nobody's finding the move. Nobody. Ray Robson found it. Ray Robson saw it before he played. I mean, he saw it before. He's not going to let the guy play f6 and go, oh no, I'm losing. Okay, he played bishop takes f6, the only winning move. And wins. Now let's figure out why. After bishop f6, ef6, we play knight e4. So let's play knight e4 now. What's the difference? Now we can take on e7, which obviously you can't do if bishop takes f6 is played. Rook e8, queen f3, and now there's nothing you can do. If you move, your knight's attacked, right? If you move your knight, let's go here. I'll just move it somewhere. Okay, then we trade queens, and now the e-pawn is too strong. And rook d8 check, etc., mainly etc.
Yeah.
Plus 1 billion. So you can't allow f takes e7, so he plays bishop takes f6, the only move that wins. Knight takes f6 check. If he plays pawn takes, knight takes, and then if f takes g, we just move our rook. And we're safe. There's no pawn on e7 that's going to queen. This pawn's not going to queen. This knight's kept out of the game. And black has a winning position here. Black's threatening knight f6, attacking the queen, and threatening queen g2 mate. So Hans played knight f6 check. Now, Karen, would you play king h8 or take the knight?
I would take the knight.
Right, king h8 hangs mate in 1.
Yeah.
So you have to take the knight. Oh, give me the knight. Now we're threatening mate. So Hans stopped that. Knight f3. Now, black only has one winning move, but it's the obvious move. Knight takes rook. Always take a rook. And the reason we're winning this and you're not getting mated, you're going to see actually. Okay, you're going to see how you're getting mated? Okay, how do you stop it? There's one way to stop it, otherwise you're lost.
Let's see. You just go king h8.
Correct.
Yeah, I thought that was another reason to take the knight too.
Yeah, then you have rook g8, so you're not getting mated. Yeah. Hooray.
Yay.
Now this is funny. This looks very dangerous. Queen takes f7. Looks dangerous. But you have to call an ambulance, but not for Ray. There's no, you can't do anything. Nothing you can do. And here black is going to checkmate white first.
Yeah.
The engine gives the queen away. That's how bad it is.
Yeah, that's pretty.
Okay, so he played king h2, defending his pawn. Queen e4. If you play queen takes pawn, I can take the knight because the g pawn's pinned. Now he's threatening queen g2 mate. He takes the knight. Now he's threatening mate here. Rook g2. And in this position, he resigned. After takes, what's the easy win for black?
Let's see.
You might not know for 5 days. Then it'll be easy like Sunday morning.
Let's see. Easiest.
Sorry if you just showed up. You missed Hikaru. He was only here for analyzing one game. We were going to have him analyze more than one game, but Karen couldn't take it. She's a Karen. She couldn't do it. You should move over.
All right.
Hikaru was hogging the limelight. Terrible.
Hey, I didn't care. All right, let me see. Darn. I don't know what it is. Go there. There's a block. Oh, you could go like a queen h5.
Mm-hmm.
And you could just take that rook.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he resigned. Also winning is queen f5. Queen e4, but this is easier. Okay, next game, Hans got totally crushed, and Swiercz played like an engine. Like an engine.
I just remembered I made coffee when I came in.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably old now.
Yeah, I don't care how old it is.
Oh, that was probably 9:15.
Yeah, it's like 40 minutes.
Okay, I'm gonna go get some.
All right.
Do you want some?
Yeah, I always want coffee. Want me to wait?
No, you can go ahead.
All right.
Yeah, I'll be right back.
Okay, Hans is black against Darius Swiercz. They played a Catalan. Yeah, this was a perfect game from white. So it looks pretty equalish, boring. White's very slightly better. Queen c7 might be inaccurate, but it's probably okay. It's playing sort of slow. Yeah, bishop takes d5 is just a mistake. That's the first mistake Hans made this game. He should just take with the knight. That way, if you play e4, there's knight takes bishop. So he should take with the knight, and he took with the bishop, losing a tempo. Now e4 is good. Bishop b2, pinning the c pawn. So Hans played queen b8. e5. Knight c4, and black is just worse here. Black has very little space, and white has very active pieces. Queen a8's a blunder, which loses the game. He should play h6 here, because you're going to play h6 anyway, so you don't have to worry about anything happening over here. The queen's better on b8 than it is on a8, because the queen defends the d6 square, and it indirectly defends the b pawn, and it puts pressure here once these get traded. So queen a8 is a really, really terrible move. dc, knight takes, knight d6, and this is just crushing for white. White's going to get the two bishops, and he's going to have the attack. And you don't really want to do anything here with black. You don't want to take, and you don't want to not take. If you take, you're again giving up the knight g5 idea, you're giving white a passed pawn, and you're opening up this bishop. If you don't take, and I take this, then my bishop on g2 is a monster. So you're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. He did take, which the engine doesn't like. Knight g5 is a good intermezzo, threatening queen h7 mate. And this is just winning for white. You can see this bishop here. Attacks the pawn. Played rook c4. Knight takes h7 is also immediately winning. Put it in h. Rook h4 is the quickest win. You can't take the knight then because of rook h8 mate. But he played here, which also wins. You can't take with the pawn because queen g6 is checkmate. So you have to take with the knight. And then you lose your knight on d5. White's up a pawn and has this amazing bishop here on the diagonal. And after d7, he just resigned. because he's going to get mated on the diagonal and white's going to queen. Both are going to happen. The engine says +6 for white. So just a terrible crushing game where Hans just got run over. A great strategical masterpiece. This is a game where if you have a lesson and you're like a master or above and you're teaching somebody like 1400 to 1800, strategical chess, this is a really good game for that. You'd have to discuss the game a lot and discuss the ideas that white was playing and why Hans's moves weren't good. And, Hans typically likes to have very active pieces and calculate lots of variations. He doesn't want to get slowly suffocated like he did against Sam. Okay, his game with Aronian was totally bonkers. He's black against Aronian, and they played the 2 knights. And as you all know, Aronian's having a very bad tournament, and he won his first game today against the hapless Alshon Diabadi, who's having a worse tournament. So they played the 2 knights. What else? This is the main line. They play bishop d3 nowadays. This is all theory. It's all prep. So black's down a pawn. So that's bad. Black has a knight on a5. That's bad. But black has the 2 bishops and white has this absurd pawn structure. That's good. So that's about equal. Levon decides to attack the c5 pawn. He attacks the d3 pawn. He attacks the e5 pawn. He defends the e5 pawn. He defends the d3 pawn. And he defends his c pawn. So all these pawns were attacked, and nobody captured them. Eventually, they were all defended. He attacked the c pawn again. It's defended enough, though. Always play bishop f8. Attacks it again. Knight b7. And here, white's sort of run out of gas. White's attacked this 3 times. Black defended it 3 times. And, that's it. So now black's going to slowly improve his position. h6, defending g5, f5, queen d5. And, go forward and uses 2 bishops in the open position. Levon played knight e1. Engine doesn't like that. Bishop b5. Knight d6. And now the position is better for black. White has an extra pawn, but it's doubled and stupid. Knight on e1 is stupid. Rook here is weird. Black has the 2 bishops. It's a better position for Hans now. Rook c3 looks pretty awkward. Never play f6, proving he won't win. And the engine really likes black's position here. Always repeat. Then Hans did not repeat, play king g7. And you can see black just has a much better position. Hard to win, though, because it's hard to break through. Yeah, and g5, I think, is a little iffy. That's the kind of move you make when you're really young. The engine says it's the best or second best move, but I wouldn't even consider it. I wouldn't even think of it. It seems more of a defensive move, like you're worried that white's going to play f4 and open up this diagonal and attack the e5 pawn. Put it in h. This is still good for black. And king f7 is a bad move. He should play bishop to d7. This allows a tactical trick. King f7. He wants to get off of the rook here. And Aronian saw it with d4. That's one of the last moves you're looking at if you're black, because black is defending d4 4 times. But this rook isn't defended, so the c pawn is pinned. And white has a lot of pieces on d4. So if he had played bishop to d7, the previous move, attacking the rook, it also defends his rook on c8, so you can never play d4. And this is what saves Aronian. Now the game is equal again. because you just trade everything. Boring. And you can't take the bishop because of rook takes. So white got rid of his doubled pawn. Now white has an extra pawn. But with the 2 bishops black has no trouble. And this is just a draw. Boring. Okay, and then they found a way to repeat, I guess. Oh, they just did this. Yeah, okay. So that was good defense by Aronian. Hans was better with black, and Hans overlooked the strength of d4, letting white draw very easily. Probably white had the better of the draw at that point, after d4. Before d4, Levin was struggling. Levin not having a good tournament. But in this particular tournament, not only does Hans have a good score right now, +1, he's drawn against Levin. He drew Dominguez. I mean, those guys he drew Wesley. I mean, those are some super GMs there. Okay, speaking of Wesley, this is the most boring game of the tournament. And that's saying something. Because this is the U.S. Championship where some of the games are boring. But this was the most boring. This is Hans versus Wesley. Not an interesting game. They played a ton of theory, and it was very boring position. Yeah, and when Hans analyzed the game with Yasser and Christian and Anastasia and said knight h4 is a ridiculous move, he missed d5. See, the knight and the rook are here attacking the e5 pawn, so you can't play d5 because I play ed and your pawn's hanging. Okay, and Hans is only 19, so he didn't know about ed. Okay, Yasser was singing praises. Yasser's like, I'm in my 60s. ED's my whole life. ED. Okay, I told that joke to Naka. Naka said I don't get it. Okay, knight h4. Now you can play d5 because you're not worried about ed. Because the knight, and Jesus said it was good, so forth. Don't forget Jesus. What is ed is correct. Yeah. Yeah, so now d5, now Hans is like, I'm an idiot. So he went back. Because he's trying to put pressure on the e5 pawn. But now this pawn, strategically this is bad for white, because we can't go to d5, and black can go to the d4 square eventually. So Hans was worse position here, but Wesley's not very ambitious. So bishop e4 doesn't make a lot of sense, except by this point in the tournament, Wesley's given up. Wesley wants to win the tournament. At this point in the tournament, Wesley was -1 or -2. So he literally was just trying to end the games. Draw, 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 leave me alone. So in this position, this move doesn't make any sense. Black has the 2 bishops. This bishop is obviously better than this bishop. So what he should do is play bishop d4 and c5 and get the grip. And instead he played here, and they just repeated. If Wesley needed to win, he would have played bishop d4, c5, and had a better position and tried to outplay Hans. But Wesley just wants the game to end. What's funny is Wesley's won his last 2 games. Some of Wesley's opponents aren't the best. Okay, now if you saw the interview after the game, this was one of Hans's funniest interviews. Hans is like, I'm winning, I'm completely winning. I have black and I know I'm winning and I'm the greatest and look at me. And, I play great and everything's good. And the engine just says it's equal. He's like, look at my rooks, look at my bishop, look at my king side, and white can't do anything. And the engine just says it's equal. But Hans is like, I'm winning, I'm the greatest. And, you got to have that overconfidence if you want to be a good chess player. Okay, that's what I have, except for one thing. When I play you guys, I get overconfident because you guys are suspicious. But when I play real chess players, I'm not so confident because they play better than I do. Okay, so Alshon played b4, which is excellent. Rook e5, bc threatening the bishop on d4, so he takes. And he sacrifices the exchange, and now the engine likes white. Totally underestimated plan, because the rooks just aren't doing anything, and here comes my knight to e6. This pawn's weak, this pawn's weak, king is exposed, my knight's coming to e6. This position's actually preferable for white. Okay, so Hans is like, damn, this position's not so good. So he played h5, and he's going to attack on the king's side. And in this position, Alshon started to go astray. Alshon's white here against Hans. Queen b6 is a good move, threatening the b7 pawn. But he played knight f4, trying to block the rooks. Although this makes h4 more palatable because you're hitting the g3 pawn. Queen a7 is a bad move. Shouldn't play queen a7. This position, the engine wants him to play knight d3 to make h4 less strong because the queen's attacking g4. And the knight is defending f2. And after knight d3, the engine prefers white because now white's rook can start moving. The rook is just being passive and defensive here. After knight d3, the knight's defending this, so our rook can go to e1 or b1 and start doing stuff. Thanks, Dr. Krieger. So queen a7 was a mistake, time trouble, h4, and now he played the losing move. This position should still probably be a draw. White needs to play rook e1. That way his king can escape if necessary, and his rook is really active. Instead, he blundered a one-move blunder. Well, that doesn't lose immediately. And what's funny is I was watching this game live, and after takes, Alshon instantly took on g3, which is a blunder. But you should never move instantly when there's a 30-second increment. Never. Because there's lots going on here. And what he needs to do is play queen c8 check. Okay, and that makes it tough for black. Then black has to play more accurately. And by playing the move fg, he obviously overlooked his opponent's next move. What's funny is, if this pawn wasn't here, if it was just off the board, okay, we'll put it here so you can't see it, haha. Then black plays e5, attacking the knight, and the knight's pinned. Pretty simple. But you always think, like, I can take on passant, so I don't care about e5. Well, white didn't play queen c8 check. White left his queen on b7. So now e5 has the dual threat of pawn takes knight, thank you, and queen takes queen. You didn't give a card winning, did you? Okay. And the thing is, we would like to play queen c8 check and then take on passant, but you're not allowed to do that. And you're not allowed to lose your knight because losing your knight is bad. If you're taking notes, I'll let you write that down. Losing your knight is bad.
What'd I miss?
I analyzed like 3 games so far. Look at this tricky tactic, Karen.
I'm tired. How many games are you going to do?
All of them. We only got 2 left after this.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and then I'm streaming until 11. So, Okay, now look at this position. We have to play queen c8 check. By playing this move, black has the brilliant winning move, e5, which Alshon missed. Notice the discovered attack on the queen.
Yeah.
You can't take on passant because your queen's hanging. You can't move your knight because rook takes rook is happening. So you're losing. So he just didn't see e5. And then he lost on time here. He sat there, but he's losing. Doesn't matter. That's a good move to end the game with. So Hans is back on the scoreboard. After winning round 1, he had 8 games in a row where things didn't go well. Then he won in round 10.
What is Alshon's overall score?
0. I think he has 2 out of 12. He might have 2.5. I said he might. He might have 2.5. Might have 2. Thanks, Chaotic Gabibo. The hype train is close. Hans was in a chess camp I taught about 8 years ago. I wouldn't say I coached him. I was Talia's coach for years, and she just won 5 games in a row. God damn. As soon as she dumped me as her coach, then she started winning. That's what happened, except she didn't dump me as her coach. But, yeah. 1 cent to do.
Hans is the best in the world?
I don't know about that. He's +1. He's tied for 4th through 8th. I don't know about that. He did the Hikaru today. He's like, I'm having a terrible, disappointing tournament. He won 3 games in a row. Nobody ever wins 3 games in a row in the U.S. Championship. Not never, not ever. Although I think Ray did. But he said, the terrible, disappointing. Once I lost all those games and I couldn't win the tournament, I relaxed because that's the only goal is, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the end of that game. Okay, the next round, which was yesterday, round 11, he played Alexander Lenderman. Now, Karen doesn't know this because for some reason, Karen, I don't know what she's doing all day. She doesn't spend all of her time analyzing the U.S. Championship. I don't know what she's doing. But anyway, if she did hear every second of every broadcast, she would know in the 2 months leading up to this tournament, Lenderman was 2,600 FIDE, and he lost 60 rating points, 25-40.
Wow.
In this tournament, he's losing points also.
Wait, when did he lose the 60?
2 months.
Oh, in the
last month and the month
I got
before.
Confused. Okay.
Yeah, frankly, terrible.
Well.
So he was 2,600 until he wasn't. If he loses another 150 rating points, he'll be close to me. Okay, so this is all theory and prep. And here Lenderman blundered and he played quickly. And by blundered, his move is slightly not the best. He needs to play knight f8. And he ended up trading on d4 first. And this is bad because white always plays f3. You can see how Lenderman didn't see f3. And the idea is if you take on f3, well, if you don't take on f3, I'm just going to take this pawn and win a pawn. I'll be a pawn up. So you have to take, and then you can never play knight e6 because rook e1 wins immediately. If we go back and we play correctly, you can't open the e file. So you could play knight here, Papa John's. The engine says it's equal. White's slightly better. That's Hans's prep. And instead, played this, and now black's knight is terrible. He can't play knight e6. So now he can't do anything.
And the king's on that open.
Right.
Wow.
Okay, so Lenderman played there because he heard you say the king was on the file. Takes here. And now Hans missed a brilliant move in this position. When I say it's brilliant, I think it's brilliant. You will not think it's brilliant. You'll be like, that's not brilliant. You don't know what brilliant means, etc. Okay, in this position, it's clear to even the most dim-witted individual with an advanced degree in hyperbolic topology that black is threatening knight takes g5. Right? See how the H pawn's pinned?
Let's see.
See there? See tricks?
If you take...
Then rook takes rook.
Right, but then they have a rook there.
What? No, if knight takes and if pawn takes, then rook takes rook.
Oh, that rook.
Yeah.
I got confused.
Okay. So Hans played rook here and said, haha, you can't go there. I wonder if he actually said that. What he should have done is played this rook here, defending his rook, stopping knight takes. And now if you play knight here to go to the only good square, bishop f7 is annoying. Mm-hmm. And the only way to defend it is to go back here. And the engine says white is more than +1. Excellent position for white. Instead, Hans played rook e1, and now the knight is going to get to d5, where it belongs. And now black has good drawing chances. Okay, he played rook h3, rook to e8, and this should be a draw now. And in this position, king takes e8 doesn't make any sense. You have to play rook takes e8 so you can activate your rook and activate your knight and so forth. King takes is a blunder. It's too passive. And they asked Lenderman after the game, why did you take with the king? And he said he was preparing to castle, but he forgot the bishop was here.
He said what now?
He was preparing to castle, but he forgot the bishop was here.
Oh, no. What?
And that's like 2 jokes.
I'm tired. I did catch it. Then I'm ready to go up and lay down.
We need a command about Karen being tired.
I'm a morning person. That's how I'm always going to be.
Mm-hmm. Okay. A4, he's advancing on the king's side. B5, or queen's side, whatever side that's called. King B4. Notice, if you play knight takes D4, remember how I said if? Mm-hmm. Rook D3, rook takes H4, defending the knight. And now what? What's the winning move for white?
Let's see.
There's 2 answers. The right one, and the other answer is I'm tired. Also possible.
Winning move for white.
Hi, viewers. I'm Ben. This is Karen. If you just showed up in the last hour, you missed Hikaru. He was here for about 20 minutes. The worst 20 minutes of Karen's life.
Yeah, I don't know.
In my opinion, this is actually my opinion. I'm not kidding. When Hikaru sees the video, he won't be mad. He'll think it's funny. Yeah, that's what I think. That's what I think. I'm an excellent driver. King C3.
Oh.
Always retreat. That's hard to see because you're retreating.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So after King B4, he didn't give his knight away. Played knight F4, attacking the rook. King C7, A5. Look how he's advancing on the queen side. Rawr. And you know what Capablanca would say? He would say, where my bitch is at. No, he would say, advance your majority in the end game, 4-3. He would also say, where my bitch is at. He would say that. True story. Takes. Okay, now this is a key part of the game, so don't blink. Okay. So here Hans sacrifices a pawn. He plays bishop A4. Knight E6 forks 2 pawns. What else? D5. Knight takes G5. So black's a pawn up. But okay, white's, kicking ass over here. Now, the reason Lenderman isn't one of the top 10, 20 players in the world is he can't resist taking this pawn, which is dangerous. And then here there's one move and he couldn't find it. There's 3 legal moves. He couldn't find the right move. He played a blunder here. And it seems sort of obvious to play king d8 because you're blocking the passed pawn and you don't want to go on a white square because the bishop's on a white square. But actually you want to play king c8. The reason is, in 2 of the winning ideas for white are queening this pawn and playing c6, king c5, rook b2, rook b8. And with the king on d8, that works out just lubberly. With the king on c8, if we play the same way that was played in the game, now you're not threatening to do this because my king's on c8. And I can go here, which is illegal if my king is on d8. And are you going to be shocked when you see this?
All right.
Okay. This looks really good for white. It's like, wow, look at white. Okay. Mm-hmm. Then black plays this move. And he's threatening rook takes d6 checkmate. Although, of course, I wouldn't play that move order because that hung my knight. I would play knight e4 check, and then I would play here. And you can't play rook d2 and defend your pawn because my knight's defending that. So it looks like white's crushing black, and black's threatening mate. And black's up a pawn, and black is better now. So after king c8, the game should be a draw with correct play. King d8 loses, and Hans uses one of my excellent endgame techniques. Move your king up in the endgame. So after the move c6, black has to take, obviously. Most people would just take without thinking. But king c5 is better. Because you might want to take with the king. We're not sure yet. What we are sure of is we want to play rook here, threatening the knight, and threatening rook here, winning the rook. Okay, so he played f4 to get counterplay. Rook b2, threatening the knight, threatening rook b8 check. Knight e6 check, threatening rook b8 checkmate. Now here, if two players were playing who were top 10, top 20 in the world, they would resign. Because you got to resign here. But he played here, not resigning. And then Hans did it again. Rook takes b5, loses. This is actually funny why it loses. Check. And now it looks like we both queen, and white queens would check, but black queens would check. Oh, snap. So instead of rook takes b5 losing, Hans once again activated his king. King c6. Now he wants to play rook takes and mate, and he wants to play here. And what would Kaidanov say about this position? Why is white winning? What's the reason?
I don't know.
If you don't know, that's okay. Why is white winning in general terms, not with calculation?
I was trying to
What's
think
good
what
about
Kaidanov
what's
says.
good about white's position that's not good about black's position?
Well, the active king.
White's king is fabulous. Black's king is less than fabulous. And we saw that today in Hans's game. King e8 running away. He's a little runaway, or she is. And then he resigned because I'm getting two queens, one for each of you. If king e7, rook e2 check, Papa John's. Otherwise, I queen, take your rook, then queen that. Very good. Don't forget, hype train, hype train. Go Nakamura,
Hey, Pankwan gone.
etc.
I'm fading out.
I'm not saying that I'm a better streamer than Joey, but on Joey's Twitch, he's got 320. Terrible. I think he has several thousand on YouTube,
Yeah.
but not good on Twitch.
He says he's not going to stream poker anymore after some meetup game thing he's doing. But
Naka was here, but he left. He was annoying Karen too much. Okay, last game.
all right.
This game was played today. This is the fighting game where Savian and Hans went to fisticuffs.
I'm tired.
Aw.
I'm trying.
Okay, so in this position, this was played about 3 hours ago. Savian played rook e2 check because, his bishop's pinned, so, Black is up the exchange for 2 pawns, but these 2 pawns are doubled and isolated. This is isolated. And Hans went for a king march. King d5, king c4, king b3. And then Savian's like, I'm going to take your h-pawn. And Hans said, you can't talk during the game. And then Savian threw his king at him. So I don't know. Some of that happened. I don't know how much of it happened. Okay, he doubled up on the bubble up. Okay, now in this position, Hans played check, which is okay. And then he played b4, which is good. And after king h4, attacking his rook, Hans went astray. Hans should just start taking pawns. If Hans was a worse player, he would just be like, hey, take pawns. No calculation. He would take this pawn, then he would take this pawn, then he would take this pawn, and the engine says like +4 for black, or -4 if you're a computer geek. But Hans was calculating. He's like, rook takes, rook here, this pawn's strong. He was worried. So he didn't do that. He played rook g6 with a crazy idea, which doesn't win. All right, now you're sitting down, right? If you were tired, this is going to wake you up. Ready to be woken up? Okay. Didn't expect that one.
Wait, go back. Okay.
That was Hans's big plan. And the engine says, terrible, get those beads fixed. Okay, so it's a draw now, but white has to play the greatest move ever to draw, which Savian did not do. Okay, this is a draw. 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 And now white has one move that draws, but nobody would ever find it, including Savian. Nobody would find it.
Go ahead.
The engine couldn't find it. That's how tough it was. Okay, the only move that draws is rook h5. And the reason is you'd like to play rook f5, and also your rook can get behind this pawn. So you got the 2-for-1 going.
Okay.
Okay, rook h5 is a draw. That's a very, very strange move. But since this rook is going here, I have to do this. Okay. Since this rook is going here, that would be nice to do this. And if you play rook h5 and they go here anyway, now you can move it on up because the rook was trapping your king, and now your king is fine. Okay, so he didn't play rook h5 drawing. He played h3 losing. King a2, here comes the queen, right? Okay. Then he played rook here so his rook can get behind the pawn. b2, his rook got behind the pawn. And then rook here. Excellent. If you play the obvious rook f2, then king g5. And everybody's happy. You're going to queen, I'll take it, and then I'm going to win your rook for my pawn, and it's a draw. But he played the brilliant rook g6, recommended by anal beads all over the world. Yeah. And you're like, why do you play rook g6? Well, he's attacking the pawn, and there's no king g5. He has to play f7, rook f6. And now I'm going to take the pawn. And then if you take my rook, I queen.
Oh, yeah.
So now black's winning. So the game concluded in that fashion. And then he played on a queen down, but he moved his king back to where, it belongs. That was good. Hans got his king to a good square. And then Hans won the a6 pawn way over there.
I was watching a little bit of it. Archer and I were in the car.
Yeah, in this position, you can't play h5 because queen e7 check wins the rook. Always repeat. And then he resigned here. His pawn hasn't moved at all, and he lost his a pawn and plus 50.
So nothing happened. It was just he was just pointing out a.
As soon as the game
problem with
ended,
the king?
they talked very nicely and they were pointing at stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Now, what happened at the time, nobody knows, but on the internet, they just think the worst. They're like, Savian was mad. He threw Hans's king at him. He asked him to go outside and fight. When there's no sound, so you can't. They're just guessing that's what happened because they want that to happen.
That's funny.
Yeah.